Hi bookworms. A long time no chat. First order of business, new setup. I got my bookshelves put in. I set them up with the help of my mom. My cat wall. I still have some things to put up, fill in some space. I thought we would catch up, shoot the shit, talk about some things. Happy Pride Month. So without further ado, let's get into it. I don't want to say stuck, because I've been thoroughly enjoying them, but I've been on the same two books for a while now, a couple of weeks, one of which is just long, 551 pages, and I literally just finished it, so I'm like riding that high, because the long book anxiety is real and valid. It was a book recommended to me, and I loved it. I had so much fun with it, so thank you. You know who you are when the video comes out and I explain the book, but not going to spoil what that book is yet. The other book I'm reading is Braiding Sweetgrass. Now this isn't a spoiler because it has been in my bio for ages that this is my current read, and as you can see by like the wear and tear on the literally like the first 50 pages, I'm taking my sweet time with this. I am in love with this book. I'm about halfway through now. Hey guys, editing Isaiah here. I ramble on for a while about Braiding Sweetgrass, and the crux of what I'm saying is that I'm being very intentional about how I'm reading it. That's really all. So yeah, thanks. I guess we can go into some books I've recently bought. Ecstasy by Irvine Welsh, who is also the author of Trainspotting, which I haven't read, and I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard good things about both, and I have a copy of the book on the shelf back here. And I like this cover, it's fun. The pink with the black and white person, I enjoy. So that's the first pickup. Next we have Diary by Chuck Palahniuk, and if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll know that I have a lot of his books. I buy a lot of his books. I enjoyed Fight Club, but I want to read more of his work because it was just a really interestingly written novel. So Diary, that can go on to my collection of like 4 other Chuck Palahniuk novels. Next up we have a book by Alice Munro. It's a short story collection, I believe, called Hate Ship, Friendship, Courtship, Love Ship, Marriage. Alice Munro is an author I've heard so much about, and being someone who, I don't read a lot of short story collections, and this one, the cover, so like girl that I couldn't leave it in the store. I had to buy it. Now that's not to say I had to, okay, critical analysis brain is like going back over what I just said, and that's not to say that because this is girl, I had to own girl. I'm digging myself into the deepest hole possible here, but I really want to read it, is what I'm saying. Next up, If Beale Street Could Talk by James Baldwin. James Baldwin, an amazing writer. I actually have one of his short story collections, Going to Meet the Man, which I've started reading but haven't finished. And I've also read Giovanni's Room by him, which I loved. If Beale Street Could Talk, also a wonderful, wonderful movie that I love as well, that you should watch if you haven't. So I'm excited to read the book it was adapted from. Next up we have Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I've heard so many beautiful things about this book. I have a friend who is reading this book and has said it's wonderful, and I saw it for $6 at Value Village and could not pass up, so I'm really excited to get into this one. Lastly, for new book acquisitions, we have Paradise by Toni Morrison, an author I adore, having only read one of her books, The Bluest Eye. I do have a small little collection of 4 or so other Toni Morrison novels, so seeing this was thrilling, exciting. So now I guess we can move on to Pride Month. Happy Pride for June, since I just finished big book that I mentioned a little bit. Why did I do this? I don't know. I want to read some gay books, some queer books. So I have picked out 4 that I'd like to read this month, and I'm gonna show them to you. First up, let's inch into it with The Danish Girl. Let me just read the synopsis. It's inspired by a true story of a Dutch painter and his California-born wife, and it kind of operates on the idea of what do you do when someone you love wants to change, and that change being a transition. I don't know how explicitly queer or queer friendly or queer positive it is, but, and it's a big but, I think it's worth a read, and it's been something that's been sitting on my shelf for a while, so I want to get into it. Next we have a nonfiction title called In Search of Gay America by Neil Miller. I found this for like $1 at a thrift store a while ago, and I've been wanting to get into it ever since, and I've recently been kind of on a nonfiction kick. I've been enjoying reading Braiding Sweetgrass, of course. There's another title that I'll talk about on here soon that I loved, and this is all about this author looking for gay and lesbian sanctuaries and places in rural America, which I think is really interesting, and it's an older title, so I'm really excited to see these perspectives. The third book is Detransition Baby by Tori Peters, one I've heard so many things about, being someone who is on the internet, and I'm just really excited to read it. Lastly, perhaps the creme de la creme, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. I have wanted to read this forever. I've also wanted to let it have its own spotlight. Much with Braiding Sweetgrass, I've heard about it and known about it for a long time, owned it for a long time, a physical copy, but I was waiting for the calling of now's the time where I'm ready to pick up this book. And I think I'm ready. I've been looking at it in between picking up new books with more intent in my eye, and I think I'm gonna be ready very soon for this. I'm really excited for the month coming up. In the next couple of days, I should have my What I Read in May video posted. I just wanted to give you all a cozy update on what I'm reading and where I'm at with books in my life. And I wanted to show you all the new setup of the bookshelves and the cats and my bird clock, which at the top of the hour, we will be hearing the chirp of the white-breasted nuthatch. And no, I didn't make that up. That's a real bird, and it's actually on the clock. Again, for the folks in the back, the white-breasted nuthatch. That was my name in college, huh? Sorry. Bye, everyone.